He was born in blood, raised in betrayal, and before the world could name him, he had already conquered half of it. But he didn't just build an empire, he rewrote the destiny of continents. The world remembers him as a ruthless warrior, but few know the silent pain, the brutal betrayals, and the mind that moved armies like chess pieces. This isn't just history. This is the rise of the most feared man the world has ever seen, and the silent lessons he left behind. Welcome to Still Rise, where we explore the silent stories of the world's most powerful minds. Stories that go deeper than history, stories that change you. If you're someone who seeks strength, clarity, and silent growth, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because here, every story is a lesson for your own rise. The boy in chains in the cold, unforgiving steppes of Mongolia. Around 1162, a child named Temujin was born not in glory, but in struggle. He wasn't born in a palace. He was born in a tent, surrounded by wolves, hunger, and tribal chaos. When Temujin was just 9, his father was poisoned. Their family was exiled, left to die by their own tribe. His mother Holland fed her children roots and bones just to survive. And as Temujin grew cold, hungry, hated, he didn't complain. He watched, he learned, he realized. In this world, no one is coming to save you. You either endure the pain or become it. One day, his own allies betrayed him. They chained him like an animal. But even in chains, he didn't break. Quietly, and he made a decision. I will never be a prisoner again. Not to men, not to fear, not even to fate. The rule of silence. Temujin didn't rush. He didn't march with drums. He built trust quietly, tribe by tribe. While others ruled by birthright, he ruled by merit. If you were strong, disciplined, and loyal, you rose. Didn't matter your blood. It mattered how you fought. Created a new code. Loyalty above lineage. Order above chaos. Honor above fear. His enemies laughed, till one day he returned with thunder. He unified the Mongol tribes, something no one had done in centuries, not with politics, but with purpose. He was no longer Temujin, he was Genghis Khan, the oceanic ruler, the one who commands like the sea, silent but all-consuming. The mind of a master. Genghis wasn't just a warrior. He was a strategist of silence. He used fear, not noise. He let rumors travel before his army did. He once said, if you strike fear before the sword, you have already won. He read his enemies. He adapted. He learned from Chinese engineers, Persian administrators, and even Roman tactics. He built the most disciplined communication network the world had seen. Messengers could cross thousands of miles in days. No noise, just precision. His empire spread like a whisper, and by the time his enemies heard it, it was already too late. Fire from ice. How did a man, once starving in the snow, become the ruler of the largest land empire in history? He didn't dream like others. He believed like few ever have. He trained himself to endure more pain than most could imagine. He said the strength of a man is not in his sword. It is in how long he can walk without water, fight without rest, and lead without doubt. He slept on the ground. He rode with his men. He never lost touch with suffering because he was born from it, and that's why they followed him. Not because he was loud, but because he was unshakable. Legacy of silence. Genghis Khan died without a golden tomb. His burial site is still unknown, buried in silence, just like his rise. But his influence is in the postal systems he pioneered, in the trade routes he protected, in the open doors he forced the world to build between East and West. He destroyed cities, yes, but he also built bridges. His empire connected China to Europe, making way for the Silk Road, making way for global civilization. His name still carries weight, because when power speaks in silence, the echo never dies. The winter of hunger, the snow was thick, the wind carried no mercy. Temujin was only a teenager. His father had been poisoned. His tribe had exiled. His family left them to starve in the wilderness. His mother Holland tore bark from trees, boiled roots, hunted rats. They had nothing. But she told her sons one thing: endure in silence, because no one will hear you scream. That silence shaped Temujin, not into a victim, but into a wolf. Blood betrayal. One night, his half-brother begged her, claimed more food than his share. Temujin saw injustice even in starvation. He killed Begder. It was his first killing. And it wasn't in battle. It was within his own bloodline. But something changed that day. He understood. Power doesn't wait. It must be claimed even in silence. The shaman's prophecy. Years later, a wandering shaman came to Temujin, said, "You are destined to unite the Mongols. Heaven has marked you." Temujin didn't laugh. He listened. He didn't believe in magic, but he believed in purpose. The seed was planted, and purpose would become his weapon. The friend who became a foe, Jamuka, his blood brother, Temujin had grown up with him. They dreamed of uniting the tribes together. But power corrupts brothers faster than war. Temujin gathered his loyal followers. Jamuka gathered his nobles. And when they met on the battlefield, it wasn't just swords. Silence shattered by betrayal. Temujin lost that battle, but not the war. He was stripped, humiliated, hunted, but in silence, he rebuilt. Quietly, patiently, unstoppably. The art of alliance. Temujin understood something no other Mongol leader grasped. Power wasn't just about conquest, it was about loyalty. He offered slaves freedom, he raised the poor, he gave even enemies a second chance. And people followed him not because they feared him, but because they believed in him. The silent outcast was becoming a leader, a new kind of army. The Mongols had always been wild, tribal, chaotic. Temujin changed that. He broke tribes apart, created units based on loyalty, not birth. Trained soldiers in silence, discipline, and deadly precision. Every man knew his place. Every order was obeyed without a word. It wasn't just war, it was poetry on horseback. The final duel with Jamuka, years after their first battle, Temujin faced Jamuka again. This time, he had the numbers, the loyalty, the will. Jamuka was captured, and Temujin did not kill him. He offered peace, he offered unity, but Jamuka refused. He chose death with honor, and Temujin gave it to him not with hatred, but with respect. The past was buried, and in that silence, a Khan was born. Genghis Khan rises in 1206. At a great Mongol council, the Kurultai Temujin was declared. Genghis Khan, universal ruler, from the starving child in the snow to the master of a rising empire. And he spoke only a few words that day. "I am the punishment of heaven. If you had not committed great sins, heaven would not have sent a punishment like me." Silence had shaped him, pain had built him. And now, the world would feel the footsteps of a man who learned to rule his mind before he ruled nations. This was part 3 and 4 of Genghis Khan's silent rise, but his story is far from over. In part 5, the conquest begins. Entire empires will fall. But the greatest war he fought was still inside. Like, share, and subscribe to Still Rise, because sometimes history speaks loudest when told in silence. He was no longer the boy who fled with hunger in his bones. He had become the storm, man with no home but with the power to burn empires. This is not the story of a king. This is the story of the man who became a god of war. And his silence was louder than the roar of 10,000 horses. The turning tide. Temujin, now hardened by betrayal and war, was no longer the hunted. He was becoming the hunter. But the world still didn't recognize him, and that was his greatest weapon. He studied his enemies in silence, watched how kingdoms fell not from outside but from within. His greatest strength united the Mongol tribes not by fear but by loyalty. He gave the lowest man a chance to rise. No bloodline, no birthright. Only discipline, loyalty, and resilience. When the Tatars poisoned his father, the pain made him a survivor. Now, that pain became his compass. One by one, he hunted the Tatars. Not with rage, but with precision. Didn't just kill enemies, he erased dynasties. He changed the rules. Enemies weren't to be feared. They were to be used. He absorbed them, made them part of his empire. Strategy few understood. He rewarded the brave, no matter their past. Even his rivals. If they fought with heart, they lived. If not, they vanished. This was not cruelty. This was clarity. Genghis Khan built a system no one expected: meritocracy, a spy network, military units that operated in silence. He used psychological warfare long before the term existed. He attacked the Jin dynasty. China, powerful, rich, and arrogant. No one thought the Mongols stood a chance. But Genghis Khan didn't attack cities first. He attacked their belief in victory, their spirit. Their silence before the fall was deafening. By the end of Part 5, the world had noticed something terrifying. A storm was rising from the steppes, not loud, not chaotic, but disciplined, relentless. And it wore the face of Genghis Khan. It was supposed to be peaceful. A Mongol trade caravan entered the Khwarezmian Empire seeking commerce. But instead of welcome, they were robbed, executed by the orders of the governor of Otrar. Genghis didn't speak. He sent 3 ambassadors for answers. 2 were murdered. 1 was humiliated. That was the last moment of peace. The message of fire. Genghis Khan didn't send another letter. He sent 200,000 warriors. He said nothing. But everything he did spoke louder than words. Every city that defied him was burned, not in rage, in calculated, silent fury. The siege of Bukhara was wealthy, proud. The gates were sealed. The people trusted their walls. But the Mongols didn't knock. They appeared from the desert where no army should be.
Other defenders collapsed.
Genghis stood in the mosque and spoke only once, "I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." The fall of Samarkand tried to fight. Elephants, armies, arrows. But Genghis had something more brutal. Unity, precision, silence. The city was crushed. Artisans were spared, the rest erased. He was not a destroyer of everything. He was a builder too, but only on his terms. The vanishing of Shah Muhammad, the Shah fled. His empire collapsed behind him. City by city, he watched his lands disappear. He ran to an island in the Caspian Sea. Alone, defeated, he died there not in battle, but in shame. And the Mongols, they never celebrated. They just kept moving quiet, relentless. The message to the world: Genghis didn't just conquer land. He sent a message across the known world. Never betray silence. Never mistake peace for weakness. The Islamic world had been a center of power, but now it stood humbled. And the West? They started watching, fearing, preparing. The power of controlled rage. This wasn't rage out of control. It was surgical, measured. Genghis never lost sight of his mission: to punish betrayal, to avenge dishonor, but never to lose himself in chaos. This was what made him more than a warlord. He was a strategist of the soul. The legacy and ashes cities were turned to dust, but his reputation, it spread faster than the fire. The Islamic world would never forget the storm from the east, and Genghis Khan, he was just getting started. They had never heard of him, but he remembered them. One insult sparked an apocalypse. And Genghis Khan, the man of the steppes, turned the Islamic golden age into ash. This is the story of vengeance, cold, methodical, and unforgettable. He had unified the steppes, he had conquered the Jin, but now his eyes turned west, to a land of libraries, cities, and scholars. The Islamic world mighty and proud. In 1218, Genghis Khan sent a trade caravan, loaded with goods, silk, and hopes of peace. But the governor of Otrar saw something else. Suspicion spies a threat. He seized the caravan, executed the merchants. The Khan did not rage, not yet. He sent 3 ambassadors, 1 Mongol, 2 Muslims. The Shah of Khwarezm made his decision. He shaved the Mongol's head, killed 1 envoy, and sent the others back. Genghis Khan was silent, but within him, a storm was born. He called it an unforgivable insult. It prepared the largest invasion the Islamic world had ever seen. 200,000 Mongol warriors, silent, disciplined, precise. They crossed rivers, deserts, and mountains like shadows. City after city fell. Otrar, Bukhara, Samarkand. Walls crumbled, armies scattered. Bukhara, a center of learning, was torched. He stood in the mosque and said, "I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me." No general had spoken such words before. The Shah fled from fortress to fortress, chased by fear. His son tried to fight, but the Mongol tide was unstoppable. Genghis Khan used rivers as weapons. He diverted the waters to flood cities, and his cities drowned. He sent a message to the world. No betrayal goes unanswered. This wasn't just conquest, it was a lesson. It's written in fire and blood. By 1221, the Khwarezmian Empire was no more. Genghis Khan didn't just break an empire, he broke its legacy. Scholars were silenced, manuscripts were burned, the cradle of knowledge reduced to ash. But why such fury? Why total destruction? Because to Genghis Khan, honor mattered more than gold. An insult to his messengers was an insult to the soul of the Mongol people. For that, there could be no mercy. This was not a madman. This was cold justice, calculated, ruthless, memorable. And when the last city fell, he turned back east, not to rest, but to rise again. The Islamic world would never forget the shadow of Genghis Khan, but this was only one part of his storm. In the next part, we explore his final years and the legacy he carved into history. The death of a titan, how Genghis Khan changed the world forever. No throne, no palace, no crown, but every king feared him. And when death came for Genghis Khan, he didn't run. He embraced it like a warrior, like a storm that finally rests. The world had changed, and Genghis Khan had shaped it. From the Yellow Sea to the Caspian, his empire stretched like a shadow. But no man, not even a storm, can escape the end. God, it was 1227, the year the earth stood still. Genghis Khan was aging, but he was not done. The Western Shah had defied him. Again, despite his failing health, he led the charge. His bones ached, his breath slowed, but his fire still burned. Some say he fell from his horse. Others whisper of betrayal. But no one truly knows how the great Khan died. His death was kept secret. His body vanished into legend. Some say he was buried in a riverbed, others beneath the mountains. To this day, his tomb remains untouched, a mystery fit for a man who conquered everything. But what did he leave behind? Not gold, not monuments, but order. He created a law, the Yasa, a code of discipline and justice. He united warring tribes, ended centuries of infighting, and opened the Silk Road. Trade ideas, peace. His empire became the largest contiguous land empire in history. But his genius wasn't just conquest, it was vision. Promoted merit, not birthright. He honored skill, not lineage. He embraced religious freedom in a time of holy wars. In doing so, he rewrote the definition of an empire. When his sons fought, his system endured. The Mongol roar echoed for centuries. But the man was gone. Genghis Khan, born as Temujin, died as a legend. No statue needed. The world became his monument. And in every whisper of history, his name remains. Not as a villain, not as a hero, but as a force. Unstoppable, unforgettable, undying. The storm was silent Genghis Khan's final ride. He was no longer just a conqueror. He was a force of nature. His name echoed through continents even before anyone heard his voice. But the world never saw how it would end in silence. The greatest empire bowed to time. This is the final ride of Genghis Khan, and it begins where legends fade, the western horizon. After subduing the Khwarezmian Empire, Genghis turns west. His mind isn't just on conquest, it's about ensuring no threat rises again. The Mongol scouts ride deep into Persian territory. Genghis orders a brutal, scorched earth campaign. Cities turn to ash. Nishaper, Merv Herat, once great Persian cities reduced to silence. Khan is methodical, surgical, ruthless. In Nishaper, 100,000 lives are taken. In response to the death of a Mongol prince. His message: to kill one of mine is to erase a world. Eternal doubt, external brutality. Despite his victories, Genghis begins to reflect. He starts holding council with his sons and generals who will rule when he's gone. Tensions brew between brothers, but the Khan keeps marching. The Xixia Rebellion, a final betrayal. In China, the Xixia Empire, once a vassal, refuses aid. Genghis sees it as treason and turns his full wrath east. A massive campaign begins. The Khan rides for the last time. The last march. Genghis is now in his mid-60s, weakened yet unstoppable. His army surrounds the Xixia capital. Then he disappears from view. No one knew where he slept that night, or if he slept at all. Some say he fell from a horse. Others say he was assassinated. Mongols kept it secret, no whisper of his death reached the world. An empire left without a voice, his body is buried in secret. Trees planted over his tomb. All funeral attendees are executed to keep the location hidden. Mongols say the great wolf rides the sky now. The final breath and the empire that would not die as the great Khan lay dying beneath the endless Mongolian sky. His generals wept not just for a man, but for the soul of an empire. He came from nothing, built everything. And then he vanished like a storm. The final campaign, as he entered his 60s, the world feared him. But time respected no one. In 1226, Genghis Khan launched one last campaign against the Western Shai dynasty. His body was aging, but his fire was not. Even when he fell from his horse and suffered internal injuries, he refused to stop. He knew death was near, but he had one final mission: ensure the legacy continued. The death of a storm. In August 1227, under a black Mongolian tent, surrounded by his most loyal generals, Genghis Khan breathed his last. But no one was told. His death was kept a secret even from the army until after the campaign ended. Why? Because Genghis Khan wasn't just a man. He was a symbol, and symbols don't die in front of their people. The secret burial. According to legend, his body was taken to an unknown location in Mongolia. The soldiers escorting the body killed everyone they met to keep the path secret. Then they were killed by another squad. Then that squad took their own lives. No monument, no name, no tombstone. Only silence and a story that would echo across centuries. The empire he left behind. At the time of his death, his empire was larger than any in history, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. He had built a nation without borders, with messengers riding 200 miles a day, where laws were memorized, not written. His sons and grandsons would expand this legacy, further conquering Baghdad, Moscow, even Europe. Genghis Khan's legacy. He didn't just conquer land, he connected the world. He created trade routes, religious freedom, a postal system, military innovation. He crushed corruption, promoted merit, not birthright. And he did all this in silence, without writing a book, without building a palace, without a crown. What we learn from this: Genghis Khan teaches us a brutal, beautiful truth. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need wealth, a title, or a perfect start. If your will is louder than your doubt, and your vision is clearer than your fear, the world will move for you or break before you. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember what silence can build. Subscribe to stillriseformore.com, powerful journeys through time. We don't make noise here, we make history.